Troodon, one of the smallest playables in the isle. One can describe it as a snake who grew back its limbs and then proceeded to roleplay Assassin's Creed. I've noticed the community's opinion in it is quite divided. On one side, it's an absolute monster at night, and on the other, it's nothing more than an oversized compy AI. So I decided to find out for myself. Right off the bat, I found out that it had the unique characteristic of being blind most of the time.
I cannot see, I'm legally blind.
Troodon's growth takes only about 30 minutes or so, and you'd spend the entirety of that running around trying to find Kentucky Fried Chicken, or else it's certain death. Given its small size, Troodon has good survivability overall. Being able to easily hide, the only few things that are keeping them in check are their own stupidity and the occasional cliff. On the beach, I found Crush the turtle from Finding Nemo, whom I assaulted by practicing some bounces. Troodon inflicts venom with every consecutive bounce. It sounds scary, but it does pretty much nothing other than boost the damage. Unless you find yourself finding a horde of them, of course. You would immediately know one because of their inability to restrain themselves from spamming the call button. What I'm especially interested in sometime down the line is its big brother Dillo, whose venom literally gives you schizophrenia with every bite. At night, this thing is king. Aside from superb night vision, it is also the only time of the day it can keep spamming its calls without being kicked in the face for it. When I was nearly fully grown, it was time to head to center because that's where YouTubers are obligated to head to. On my way there, I saw a small Omniraptor doing some corpse work, which was pretty shoddy. I perched up higher to get a better view of everything, and that's when I noticed that the raptor was gone. It snuck up behind me, but this thing was way too small to be fighting an adult Troodon. That pretty much sums up the confidence level of your average Omniraptor player. Later, while I was drinking in the river, an even smaller Omniraptor yeeted itself at me. I had the suspicion that this was the same raptor as before, back with a vengeance. I was sneaking around the bushes trying to listen for any potential prey, when a small Carno popped up out of nowhere to bite me in the ass. Somehow, this Carno was able to track me with near perfect accuracy in the bushes, which I thought was strange. Luckily, a fresh spawn Carno isn't much of a threat to a Troodon, so this guy's license to live was also revoked. These recent events have been pretty weird. After that, I sat in a bush to heal my wounds. And what do you know, I was once again attacked by a fresh spawn Carno. Either every fresh spawn just happened to love throwing themselves at the first Troodon they saw, or I've been fighting off one pissed off person this whole time. This time around, there was an adult Carno with them, and there was no way I would be fighting these two on my own, so I skedaddled out of there. I ran through the bushes, across the river, and jumped here and there, like a cat after stealing your neighbor's barbecue. I thought then there should be no way they could track me, especially after healing my bleed. Boy, was I wrong. The little bugger managed to pinpoint my location once more. Either this is the most cracked Carno in the game, or they're using the H word. Hats. I tried to find a place where they could not get to me, because it is clear that trying to hide does not work. I ran towards a rock outcrop to find a spot where I could jump to. Unfortunately, my adult Troodon no longer had the durability of a fresh spawn, so my entire skeleton basically snapped in half from that jump. Still, given the choice between that and being unalived by these Carnos, my choice is pretty clear. Returning from the void, it was another 30 minutes of pain and suffering. Since I had trouble trying to hunt for food as a fresh spawn in the outskirts, I returned to center because my intrusive thoughts said so. Here it is easy to find food pretty fast, but you also run the risk of being fast food yourself. At my size, I could almost pass for a compy. You could almost say that Troodon may have just been a compy that took one too many steroids. I found it was quite tough trying to scavenge out in broad daylight, because you're pretty much blind from the grass most of the time, and you also run the risk of being one-shot by everything else. Finding and eating food as a Troodon was more stressful than trying to find food at 12 AM, which involved constantly looking over your shoulder in case anyone else was silently judging you. A bit later, I parked myself in a bush near the river, figuring I could probably ambush a few thirsty people, just like your typical advertiser for G Fuel. I saw a Paki getting chased by two Ceratos, and it felt like I was watching a documentary.
As you can see, the Paki's buttocks were no match for the two gangsters' Ceratos. Sheesh.
Just when I thought it was all over, one of the Ceratos gets grabbed by a Dinosaur. Because there had to be a dino somewhere. That's the circle of life in the Isle for you. Everyone gets eaten at one point in the cycle, unless you're a Dinosuchus. Then you're basically immortal. Witnessing all of that made me create another Troodon just in case my first one didn't make it. Think of it as insurance. I had a tough time trying to find food as usual, and ended up trying to fight off starvation and a very angry boar at the same time. Which, as you could see, did not end well. Throughout the rest of the day, I was running around trying to find food, regardless if they were on my diet. And what do you know? That resulted in the absolute collapse of all my bodily functions. This may look bad, but I could also argue that I was just speedrunning my life. Who knew neglecting a healthy diet had consequences after all? It was a rush to find food on my diet list. Looking around for a good while, I couldn't find any. Skill issues. Except for a Carno, which I'm pretty sure wasn't on my diet. But I just said fuck it, let's hunt. Never mind. Glad I had insurance for that. I respawned once again in center, harassed a deer, and met another Troodon. Troodons were meant to be played in a pack, but I have a general aversion and distrust of everyone else that isn't me, especially when I play Carny. And to emphasize my point, this happened shortly after. I hope they found whatever they were looking for at the bottom of that river. Once again, I found myself playing the Hunger Games against my will. I even took a chance at a rotting carcass, since out here it's pretty hard to be picky. I spotted a boar chasing after a goat, which I didn't even know happens in this game. Now, I love watching animals beat each other up just as much as the next guy, but I had to intervene. I've had enough trauma dealing with boars as a Troodon, so I didn't stick around too long. Just to recap, I was starving, dehydrated, bleeding out, and also very sick from that rotting corpse. Come nightfall, I found another Troodon going about its business. We grouped up and immediately went on to hunt. With little luck, we settled on some fried chicken, but close by we also found a rotting corpse.
Finally, some good fucking food.
Out of nowhere, a Ceratosaurus popped up. probably after tracking the scent of this corpse. Cerratos are the garbage trucks in this game. Their entire existence revolves around asking everyone, "Hey, you gonna eat that?" This one didn't look too big, but it was certainly big enough to take us out with one bite. Normally, you would need good coordination as a Troodon pack, but since there was only 2 of us, it was pretty smooth overall. We were latching on in sync without overpouncing. It was all well and good until somehow my packmate got nabbed and was sent to the void. I mustered up my courage to continue on with the hunt. I would not let their sacrifice go to waste. I think I've earned a mandatory screech after that. I did join a larger pack sometime after that, but that didn't end well as usual. Twice. The first one was when we were hunting in Tenno, only to get interrupted by a random Carno. The second one was when we decided to help out a few packies against a bigger Carno, because we all shared the same hatred for these things. This turned out to be a poor choice, since it was like stepping in front of a battering ram in an attempt to help out. So after all of that, I think I figured out what's the deal with Troodon. You spawn in blind for most of your life, you run around hunting for chickens or else you die within the first 30 minutes, you wait for nighttime to amass a Troodon horde, while also screaming at the top of her lungs. And when you finally get a hunt going, proceed to get one shot. And the cycle repeats. Playing Troodon is perfect for when you want to induce rage and unbelievable frustration on yourself. Its existence is pain and there's no other creature that the game hates as much. Terrible experience overall, so it's a 10 out of 10, I love it. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.